And we're live here with Sports Bros Podcast. I'm your host, Logan Chasing. With me is Justin Peck from Elma College. How you doing today, Justin?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. It's been a hectic weekend, been busy, but as always, we have a few topics to talk about this weekend. We had the divisional rounds from the NFL and all that, but as always, let's start with our week to week, our chaotic week since our last show. How have you been since our last show?
Good. Finishing up a few events here this past week, and then got two of them this week, and finishing up my odds and ends here, and getting the car packed up, ready to go soon in a couple days.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's definitely gonna be a long drive since you're going over to North Dakota now. Yeah,
Yep.
it's been pretty hectic for me. I almost forgot about the show today, but thank you for reminding me. So, yeah, wild weekend for the NFL. Um, have a few people stepping down from teams. Still got coaches that need to be replaced. But I'm gonna start off with I was shocked that 3 out of the 4 games this weekend ended with a last minute field goal to win the game for whoever won that game.
Yeah. For all NFL football fans, I mean, after the fourth game of the weekend, the only thing that was on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all social medias was simply 3 out of the 4 games couldn't have ended in a more weird script. Like, you can't script these up for football fans in the NFL that love watching football games. It just people were most excited about this weekend, I think, more than any other weekend in a long time.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was tremendous football weekend for the least. That um, down to the wire, sit on the edge of your seat football, and that created for some good entertainment. But at the same time, it probably gave some people some heart attacks because of what was going on.
That and a huge debate about the NFL overtime rule.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, especially after that Kansas City game.
yeah, that needs to be reevaluated.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with that because how does the other team have a chance to tie it up or even win it if they never even get the ball on offense?
Yeah, it. Someone made a great example of this. Just like baseball, you go to the top of the 10th inning, and someone hits a home run to go up 1 run. Are you going to end it right there in the top of the 10th, and the home team doesn't get a chance to come back and try and win it?
Well, exactly. Yeah. Well, we might as well go on to our topics. We pretty much our NFL this week, starting with Sean Payton stepping down.
Yeah. Sources over in New Orleans have wrote that New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton is stepping away from his post after 16 years with the franchise. Uh, he is not necessarily retiring permanently, but he has decided to take a break, and he's not immediately clear on what his intentions are next. I will, however, say that television networks have been interested in hiring him to broadcast or be as an analyst, but he has yet to make any further decisions since this has just come over the last 3 hours, basically.
Right.
Peyton, who is 58 years old, has 3 remaining years on his deal with the Saints after signing his latest extension in 2019. So the Saints would maintain his rights if he decides to return his coaching, and could require compensation if he wants to coach for another team. So again, he's making the decision to step down from the head coaching position but what he wants to do is still unclear. Whether he wants to just be an assistant coach and let them get another head coach, or if he wants to retire completely, or whatever it is. It's all just a matter of time, and he's got to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, whatever he chooses to do, he'll probably be good at what he's doing, especially with the type of the career that he had over at New Orleans.
Oh, absolutely. And when you've been in an organization for that long, you have respect all over the place.
Yeah.
The next one, finally, after so many debates and talks and tweets and everything else, the NFL has announced that it will stop its daily COVID-19 testing for unvaccinated players. The NFL and the NFL Players Association have agreed to halt the daily COVID-19 testing for unvaccinated players, aligning them with protocols developed last month for vaccinated players and coaches. The league said that it would add unvaccinated players to its existing symptom screening and testing surveillance programs. I think it's a good idea, simply because if you are asymptomatic and don't have any symptoms, you're more than likely you're going to be negative. I mean, most of the population that I've talked to has basically told me that I knew I almost had COVID because I have had symptoms.
Right.
But without having any symptoms, you're basically perfectly healthy. And I mean, I can vouch for that because in the last 2 years that this has been around, I haven't had it once.
Well, and I can vouch for that too because I've actually had it, and I could tell just by the symptoms that I had it.
Yeah, so I think this is a good move, and it could start a chain reaction for other leagues.
Well, yes, I agree. I definitely agree. Um, yeah, if you're not showing symptoms of COVID, I don't think you need to be tested. Plain and simple. I mean, if you were coming in and you had symptoms, yeah, get tested. But if you're not showing symptoms, why the heck are they gonna force players to have a cotton swab shoved up their nose just to say that they're negative when they could have been told that by looking at symptoms?
Right. And how many false positives are there coming out every single day? And then a couple days later, they realize that they were a false positive because the lab told them so.
Yeah.
How many practices have been lost? How many lives have been significantly changed and money wasted simply because it was a false positive?
Right.
With professional organizations, you have to be 100% if you're going to change something that dramatic. You
Yeah.
can't just make a mistake like that and expect everything to be okay.
Yeah. Yep, I definitely agree. Anyways, moving on, since we do have a tight timeline for you because you have to get to work at some point. Matthew Stafford and the Rams take a win and are heading to the divisional championship this upcoming weekend. First of all, I want to send my congratulations out to Matthew Stafford. This is the furthest he's ever made it in a playoffs since he's been in the league. It's his first year with the Rams, and he is doing phenomenal. I think they're loving him over there in LA.
Oh, absolutely. And for anyone who watched this game, myself included, at the end of the first half, it, my jaw had dropped to the floor simply because of what it was. And I give Matthew Stafford a lot of credit. He went into Tampa Bay and absolutely outplayed them 100%. But never count Tom Brady out. Everybody knows. The score is 27-3, and Tom Brady is like, we got to wake the hell up. we got to figure out how to adjust the game plan. So whatever was said or done at halftime, uh, I'll say worked, but in the end, it was Matthew Stafford and going down and providing yet another game-winning drive to add to his statistics for a game-winning field goal.
Well, yeah. It was definitely, like I said at the beginning, a nail biter, down to the wire game. But for them to be able to pull off what they did against what a lot of people call the GOAT is phenomenal. And I do firmly believe that if they play the way they played against Tampa Bay this past weekend, if they play against the 49ers like that, we're going to see the Rams going to a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And if that happens, the whole city of Detroit will definitely be 100% supportive in knowing that we all want Matthew Stafford to get a ring. And it's unfortunate that it wasn't going to happen in Detroit, but the way he's given back to the city of Detroit and how much the city of Detroit and the Detroit Lions fan base loves him, we are definitely in full support of him getting that Super Bowl ring.
Well, and he still considers Detroit home. It's not just him up and leaving and going to LA. So with him still considering Detroit home and the fans still absolutely loving him, yeah, we hate that he's gone. But I had read articles after that game of fans at the stadium dressed in Matthew Stafford Detroit Lions jerseys screaming at the top of their lungs to spike that ball so they could kick that field goal and be able to move on. Not a lot of fans would be doing that with other players, I do believe.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if I've seen other fans from other organizations go and support their former teammates the way that Detroit has for Matthew Stafford over in LA.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you have those GOAT Tom Brady fans that'll follow him anywhere, but I personally feel like that's a different side of the story.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. And on the note of that, it's LA openly welcomed not just Matthew Stafford, but welcomely opened their arms up for every Detroit Lions fan that was a Stafford fan to be part of that journey with Stafford and enjoy the fact that he could get a ring in LA. They weren't like, "Oh, you're a Detroit Lions fan. We don't want to talk to you." No, they opened up their arms to even the Detroit Lions fans to be able to root for Matthew Stafford. So it's nice to see that not only do we have fans like we do for Stafford, but the Rams fan base is probably one of the best out there because they were more than willing to allow fans from Detroit to wear Detroit gear in their stadium to support Matthew Stafford.
And that says a lot about the organization. It really does. And how supportive they are. And I can't begin to, I mean, as a Lions fan, just thank them for being so open and welcome.
Well, exactly. I mean, I truly hope Stafford does great things over there for them. It's well deserved for him. It's well deserved for the Rams fan base and the city of Los Angeles. Um, they have their lifelong quarterback over there with Stafford. I truly believe that. I mean, it would have been nice to have been able to do what he's doing here in Detroit, but he knew he couldn't do it here, and it's because he's tried for what he got drafted in 2008, and it's now 2022. So over almost a decade over there, he tried and couldn't, and the organization wouldn't build a team around him. So when he decided to cut ties with Detroit as a player there, yeah, it was heartbreaking. But to see what he's doing now when he has an organization that's built around what he needs to be successful on the field is just amazing.
Absolutely 100% agree.
So, with that being said, chaos in Kansas, and this isn't Dorothy and Toto going on a trip to down the Yellow Brick Road. even though it probably felt like it for Kansas City and the Bills the way the last 2 minutes of that game went.
Oh my God. It, all I'm going to say, when you have 25 points scored in the last 2 minutes of a football game, I hope you didn't fall asleep. I hope you didn't fall asleep.
Fortunately, I was at work, so I didn't see the last 2 minutes, but I heard it was chaos.
That was some exciting shit. The last 2 minutes you had. Keep track of that. 25 minutes, you have 2 minutes. So on average, a drive is about 7 points, roughly. So that's 4 scores.
Yep.
Divided by basically 2 minutes. So that's almost 240 seconds divided by 24. That's less than 30 to 45 seconds per drive.
Yeah.
You barely get 30 to 45 seconds per play.
Yeah.
On a regular drive.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
There's the whole basic play-by-play that is on here. A minute 54 to go. Bills take their first lead since the first quarter. Fast forward to literally 52 seconds later. Chiefs retake the lead in 50 seconds.
Yeah.
With 13 seconds to go, Allen connects with Davis for his 4th TD pass of the game. And then from 13 seconds till clock hits 0, the Chiefs drive 44 yards for a game-tying field goal. Now, all I'm going to say is when you have 13 seconds left to go and you're starting from your own 25-yard line, I wish I would have looked it up on Vegas. I would have loved to know the odds before this drive even started of the probability of scoring on this possession.
It probably was high, or very low. The odds, like, it was probably for every dollar you bet, you probably would have won like $50. So if you bet $50, you'd have been making bank on that one possession of the game type thing.
You have a game featuring 2 exquisite quarterbacks between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, most definitely.
And I personally believe that with that performance, Patrick Mahomes is probably one of the greatest quarterbacks to come up over the last 5 years, without question.
Oh, yeah.
And if he continues to play like he does, he very well could be the next GOAT in his era.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, it would have been nice to see the divisional championships with teams in it that haven't been into that far into a playoff in a long time. But it is what it is. Chiefs went out there and showed why they are where they are and how they do their thing. And for Mahomes to be able to pull something off like that is phenomenal, beyond belief. And honestly, you know my beliefs on the whole GOAT thing with Tom Brady. I don't look at Tom Brady as the GOAT because of that blemish in his record a few years back with the Deflategate. If you are a true GOAT, you shouldn't need to do that.
Right. And which brings another point. With this game, it's one thing to settle a game the way they do in overtime rules, like they do for regular season.
Right.
But when you're in a playoff game, change the overtime rules because that game was so spectacular. It truly is sad that Josh Allen didn't get a chance in overtime to defend himself and even get a game-tying or a game-winning drive.
Well, exactly. And honestly, this is how I look at it. You get what? Fourth quarter rules, 10-minute quarter. Right now, first one to score a touchdown wins. After that, it's sudden death, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how I think it should be. Obviously, right now, if you go into overtime, you only get one overtime quarter, so you don't have long, prolonging games, which I understand that. Let's make it, instead of a 10-minute quarter, make it a 15-minute quarter, just like any other quarter, in normal rules. Except for reviews come from the booth. You don't have a challenge. At least I don't think they have a challenge right now. I don't think they do. And you get 2 timeouts. And at the end of that quarter, if it's still tied, it ends as a tie. If it's not tied, guess what? You have a winner. But this whole first one to score crap, I think is just that, is crap, because like you said, a team could win the coin toss, receive the ball, go out there, score, it's game over.
A coin toss should not decide the fate of a game.
Exactly. And I think that's how it should be all season long, not just the playoffs. That's how it should be all the way around the board during the regular season and the playoffs, because that's going to give more of a fan base wanting more football. Yeah, it's going to prolong the game even with the 15 minutes instead of the 10, but it's giving both teams a chance to fight for that position instead of, oh, we won the coin toss. As long as we score a touchdown on our first possession, it's game over. We won. And I believe that is very unfair to the other team who lost the coin toss.
Yeah, and I firmly believe that ties are something that shouldn't happen in professional sports. That's, in my opinion, that's almost like a participation trophy for everyone.
Well, yeah, I agree, but sometimes it happens. Especially with sports like football, where you have to score points to win, unlike racing, where it's first one to the finish line, and you have hundreds of camera views on that finish line to determine a winner. So,
Yeah.
but with that being said, my wife's Holy Grail team, my third team I cheer for, the Green Bay Packers being stunned by the 49ers in Lambeau Field, where the temperatures felt like 0 degrees.
Yeah, this almost, to me, resembled the national championship game first half, to where it was all defense and very little to slim picking offense. Going into the fourth quarter, the score was 7-3, Green Bay. Yeah, going into the fourth quarter, it was 7-3. San Francisco did not score until the third quarter, and it was only a field goal. Green Bay scored a touchdown in the first quarter and hadn't scored again up until late with a field goal.
Yeah.
On a field that was literally filled with snow flurries in the fourth quarter, Robbie Gould hit a 45-yard field goal as time expired to give the San Francisco Niners the win as they knocked off the top-seeded Packers. Now, I will say Robbie Gould is familiar with unusual situations.
Right.
And simply because before that game started, he was out kicking field goals while the Packers were announcing their lineup and making the tunnel. So he was basically kicking with interference, so to speak.
Right.
And then I believe it was a couple weeks prior, I want to say in Dallas, but I'm not 100%, to where the cheerleaders were on the field, and he was also warming up pregame or at halftime as well. And now, granted, being in snow is different conditions, but when you're a kicker, you have one mindset, and that's to, and I'm going to quote the movie For Love of the Game, a baseball movie, you clear the mechanism and only focus on your target.
Right.
And when you've been in the NFL for as long as he has and has been a reliable kicker for all those years, it's pretty simple to do.
Well, yeah, he's got a foot on him, and it was shocking at the end of the first half when he went to kick that field goal, and I believe it was the Packers game, and missed it just right of the field goal pole. I think everyone was stunned that he missed that.
Yeah, and special teams played a huge part of this game. Without special teams, Green Bay would have won this game.
Well, yeah, and Matt was quoted that they should win this game. The only thing he is worried about is special teams fucking it up for them.
Yeah, and to quote 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan, we thought our special teams had an advantage in this game. We thought they had an opportunity to possibly win us the game, and be able to say that and to actually come to fruition was huge for those guys and huge for our team.
Yeah.
And that really does go to show that just because it's mostly an offense and defensive game doesn't mean special teams isn't a factor.
Right.
It's just as much of part of a football game as anything.
Yep. And my wife pretty much summed it up that was not a 13-3 team for Packers that showed up on Sunday. And I quote her as saying that game was so bad it actually made her sick.
Yeah, I can imagine that almost anybody who was at that game or who is a Green Bay fan probably feels the same way, because that is not the Packers team that they have seen all season long.
Well, exactly. And I told her, because again, I was at work kind of keeping up on the game when I could, and I messaged her on one of my breaks, and I straight up told her they better pull their head out of their ass or they're going to lose this game. And her response to me was, there's plenty of football left. I said, I understand that, but they keep playing the way that they're playing now. They're going to lose it. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter if it was at Lambeau or if it was over at Levi Stadium. Packers, the way they were playing, were not playing the way they should have been playing. And I knew by halftime, if they continued to do that, they were going to lose that game.
Yeah. It goes to show about preparation, and it's my firm belief that the Packers overlooked them.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, they played on week 3 of the season, and that was a nail-biter game too. I don't remember offhand what the final score was of that, but for you to not go into a playoff game and play it like a playoff game is, to me, a disrespect to the organization, a disrespect to the fans, and a disrespect, and I'll say it as one of them, shareholders / owners of the team.
Yeah, there will be a lot of questions that do need to be answered, and the biggest one is, what's next for Aaron Rodgers?
Speaking of which, hopefully I didn't close it because I got a news break on my phone that was about him. I still have it. The possibilities that he may stay at, obviously, Green Bay. Other landing spots for him is Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and I believe one other for him to land as a player if he chooses not to retire.
And I did hear an interview given over the last couple days that Matt gave. He said that they are not in a rebuilding stage in any way, shape, or form. However, I would like to believe that's kind of false, because as of right now, they are over $48, I want to say, $1 million over the salary cap, and I want to say 80% of that is because of Aaron Rodgers alone. So they're going to have to do a lot of shopping and figuring out how they can get the salary cap handled and figure out how they can manage their team correctly. But they also said that they would like to do everything in their power that they can to have Aaron Rodgers continue to stay a Packer.
Well, and that's just it. Is again, I don't keep up with much with the Packer stuff as I probably should start doing. My wife had read though that Aaron Rodgers was quoted, "I will not be part of a rebuild team with the Packers." So
Exactly.
that's telling me if he's not wanting to be with a rebuild team, it's rather one, they better not start thinking about a rebuild just because they lost in the playoffs this year. They have a strong team as it is. They really don't need to rebuild. But if they do, they're on the shit end stick of keeping Rodgers to where he may go someplace else or he just may retire.
Yeah, and I think that basically says it best. If they're going to do a rebuild, Aaron Rodgers is out one way or another.
Yeah.
But if they're not, he'll stay.
So, and as far as their salary cap, yeah, they have a salary cap there, but at the same time, they did just do a shareholders sale on shares, and once they sell all those shares, I believe the total cost is the total that they'll make off those shares is like 6 or 7 digits long, just from those shares being sold. So I really firmly believe they're not hurting on money at all.
So they might be able to come out with this with a good figure, and I think that would be a great thing because that would prove to Aaron Rodgers that they're not going to be in a rebuild and he's going to be able to stay.
Well,
But
exactly, and a good portion of that money is to upgrade the stadium. I do know that much. But with that being said, they're gonna do what they need to do to keep a player like Aaron Rodgers there because of what he brought to Green Bay. He's not just a household name for everyone that watches the NFL, but he is family to the city of Green Bay. They consider him family, even though they may disagree with some of the stuff that he does. I know I do. Um, but all in all, who doesn't disagree with some of the shit that family members do? So
right,
with Green Bay being as they like to call it, a city-owned team, I do believe the board of trustees and the board that is elected by the shareholders will do the right thing to make this team better without having to rebuild, and will continue the type of seasons that they have year in and year out with Aaron Rodgers there for the majority of it. If they don't keep Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be hard to have seasons that are 13-3, 14-2, because Love isn't worth a damn. And I believe they drafted a quarterback last year and hasn't had that much experience on the field to be put as a starter. So it's rather you have to find somebody in free agency, get somebody from the draft that is actually worth a damn, or you're going to be struggling for years on end. And I don't think the city of Green Bay wants that.
no, and especially with this year's draft, I don't see a really significant quarterback coming out that could be a fit in Green Bay right now.
Well,
Maybe
exactly.
maybe next year when you have a couple great quarterbacks that have graduated, but I don't see one this year because everybody that I've seen that looks pretty good is isn't a senior.
Well, it's not. It
They're
doesn't
all
even have to
juniors.
be a senior because you can, with the NFL, from my understanding, you have to play 2 years of collegiate sports, aka football, in order to enter the draft. So by your
And
junior
they
year,
most of them only have been one because they've been redshirted. So this is only their first year.
well, they don't count red shirts. If you're on the team, on a roster, they count that season because you're at practice. You got to be on the team for 2 years. So
Okay.
so with that being said, all those junior quarterbacks out there that were draft eligible had chosen to go back to the respective colleges that they played for, or enter the transfer portal and go to a different college that is willing to have them and play one more year of college football before entering the draft, if they even decide to enter the draft. So
Yeah.
you don't really have, like you said, quarterbacks in the draft that are good. There's quarterbacks. Are they worth drafting? Probably not first round. Probably not second round. They'll probably go about fifth round, unless if a team is really desperate for a quarterback. Um, with that being said, there isn't really that many quarterbacks that are in the free agency in the NFL right now. They're pretty much all tied up with contracts and are willing to stay with the teams that they're with right now.
Yeah. And with Big Ben retiring and the possibility of Aaron Rodgers retiring, and who knows if Tom Brady will retire, there's really only 3 open slots if this all falls through. So, and again, there's backup quarterbacks that have learned from those respective teams that are gonna come up and be their starters.
Well, exactly.
You won't have there's not a lot of options for you to be a starting QB right now.
Nope. So at this point, you got to put on a really good face to get that starting position with those teams. And honestly, I believe Aaron Rodgers will be back in Green Bay, even though technically he's a free agent after this season. I believe he likes to be in the spotlight no matter what. And what he did this past preseason with the draft and everything was just so he could be in the limelight. Do I agree with it? No. If my co-share of the team with my wife would allow me to do anything about it, trust me, I'd be having words, because I think that's bullshit. That's disrespectful to the young upcoming players of the NFL, and I believe it is disrespect to the organization and the owners of the organization, and he shouldn't be acting, as I would put it, childish just to be in the limelight and taking it away from these young players in the draft and the combine like that.
Right.
So it's very that's a very touchy subject with me. I mean, I'm a very new shareholder for the team, but I have the background of business management in me and everything, and having players like that act the way they do outside of the normal season just to create a little chaos or anything like that, to me, is bad for business.
Oh, absolutely 100%. You're basically it being a player, so to speak, in today's world, or a better word for it is just being an ass.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's under contract. Well, his new contract technically, I believe, ended after once the season's over. But that's a job. You go anywhere else and act like that, they fire you. Honestly, they do. So for him to be allowed to act like that, and rather our coaching staff not do anything about it, or the board of directors not do anything about it, tells me where is their head. That's, to me, is bad media. Not all media is good media. There is bad media out there, and that is bad media for the organization, for the players, and for the fan base, that you have a quarterback that is that obnoxious and you're doing nothing about it as an organization. Says a lot. And quite frankly, if I had my choice, I would be interviewing every single one of the board members on that board that get elected by the shareholders, and would be asking them, okay, if we keep Aaron Rodgers, what are you going to do so this crap doesn't happen again? Because
Right.
if they're not going to do anything about it, maybe they shouldn't be on the board representing all these thousands of fans that have bought into this team to do that job. Maybe somebody else should be sitting in that seat that is got a backbone and is willing to say, hey, yeah, I get you're a superstar. I get you're amazing at your job, but that doesn't mean you can act like this.
Right.
So, anyways, now that I went on my rant about that, Bengals Um, walk off winner. I mean, shoot, who would have thought they would be in the playoffs?
Apparently, everybody in the city of Cincinnati. And the only reason I say that is because they've had so much faith in Joe Burrow since they drafted him that it's actually paying off, and you can see it in their play.
Yeah.
Just because they're had a 10-5 season before the playoffs started doesn't mean squat. The 10 wins is what is important, and their 5 losses that they had, or excuse me, 7 losses that they had, because they were 8-7 to start the playoffs, I believe. It They weren't lost by that many points. I think it was only 1 to 2 possessions each time that they lost, and he's given the city of Cincinnati a reason to believe in him.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Joe Burrow, not a lot of people would have thought he would be Cincinnati's quarterback, but he has turned into their superstar quarterback over there since almost day one. They put faith in him, and they haven't lost that faith since they drafted him, and that is amazing to see coming from a fan base and an organization to say, yeah, we had a shit season, but be prepared for next season because you're starting. So for this to be paying off for them, that's like rolling the dice and hoping to come out on top. And they rolled the dice with Joe Burrow, and it's starting to pay off in big ways for him.
Yeah, absolutely, Hunter. It couldn't agree more. And when you have a reliable kicker like Evan McPherson, similar to what Robbie Gould is to San Francisco, you give Joe Burrow enough time, he's going to set you up for a game-winning drive.
Well, exactly. And I mean, he kind of turned into like the Aaron Rodgers of Cincinnati. Aaron Rodgers needs, 36 seconds to get from one end of the field to the other. And look what Joe Burrow did this past weekend. He got his team into position to kick the game-winning field goal to move on to their divisional round or championship. So he definitely I'll say it, not a lot. Will Joe Burrow, if he keeps up with what he's doing, he's gonna be in the same category as Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and all the other great quarterbacks out there.
Oh, absolutely. You could see it from all year long. He very well is going to be in the contention of league MVPs if he continues to play like he is.
Well, exactly.
There's no doubt about it.
So, with that being said, like I always say, we're on to your favorite sport of the night, the NHL.
And these 3 topics, or 2 topics, are going to go pretty quick here. First one, very similar to the NFL. The NHL and the National Hockey League Players Association have updated their COVID policies. The first one is there will be no more testing on fully vaccinated players and staff during the All-Star break for those participating, unless needed for travel or development, or if they develop symptoms. The second one is there will be a single test upon re-entry to the club facilities past the All-Star break, after which they will be no longer testing asymptomatic players or testing fully vaccinated players as well. So that is similar to what the NFL is doing. They're no longer testing fully vaccinated players or asymptomatic.
Which I'm glad to see that they are following the NFL and doing right and righting the wrong on how they were treating this whole COVID.
Yeah, exactly. The third update, thereafter, testing will continue only on a limited basis in fully vaccinated players and staff who develop symptoms or require testing for cross-border travel. So again, it's only testing if they absolutely need to, or if they are traveling across the Canadian border.
Okay, which some teams do that because we do have Canadian teams in the NF or NHL.
Yeah. And the last update is the post COVID, in quotes, testing holiday, unquote, will remain at 90 days, but
Okay.
symptom based testing can still be done at the team's physician's discretion. Testing for cross border travel post COVID will be dictated by the relevant health authority, which is currently 90 days for entry to the US and 180 days for Canada entry. So
Okay.
this goes for postseason, basically, is testing when needed.
Right. All right. On to the last topic of the day. Former Wings defenseman returns from retirement. Who would that be?
Uh, Former Red Wings defenseman and former Michigan State Spartan, Justin Abdelkader, has signed a professional tryout with the Detroit Red Wings organization affiliate down in Grand Rapids, the Grand Rapids Griffins.
Yeah.
He turns 35 next month. He has been playing over in Switzerland, where he won the 2021 NHL title with EV Zug. I'll have to look them up to know more about him, but he played for the Wings from 2007 to 08 up until the 19 and 20 season, where he soon was a rising star to become an alternate captain.
Okay.
Abdelkader said in an interview that he's very excited. It's good to be back where it all kind of started back in 2008. I've been in touch with some of the Detroit staff about the possibility of getting in some games here and getting back up to game speed. Really excited to be back. Had a great year last year over in Switzerland.
Well, I can't wait to see him back on the ice.
Oh, absolutely. And I can already tell. I've talked with some of the fan base in Grand Rapids because I was over there this weekend, and the city of Grand Rapids has already sported the number 8 jersey already.
Oh hell yeah, that's definitely good to see.
His hope is that if the chance comes to it, he would like to go over to the Olympics if it is a possibility.
Right.
And he does still have the drive and passion to play the game that he loves. He's going to do it for as long as he is physically capable.
Well, that is definitely good to hear. Well, I think with that being said, that is our short show for this week, as we do have busy lives. There's nothing else you have to say. I have nothing else to say. So, anything else, man?
All good for today. Short show. It wasn't a whole lot to discuss outside of the 6 or 7 topics because it is getting down to that shorter end of the sports season to where it's playoff time and not a lot's going around. So
Exactly. So, with that being said, everyone, don't forget, have a break, have a sport, have a good evening.